Hello. I'm sorry I've been really lax about updating. My friend was up, so I just didn't have much time. Not that my videos are that big of a hit with my 20 views, but whatever. As long as somebody's getting something out of it, doesn't really matter. I'm wearing a toga today. It's pretty cool. We are going to talk about AIDS today. Basically just kind of going, once again, area to area, because what's going on with AIDS is very different in, most parts of the country. It doesn't correspond, in Africa as it would in Europe, or in Europe as it would in the United States. So there's an estimated 33 million cases worldwide of AIDS. These aren't treated cases or untreated. That's just the estimate together. But, you have to think many of them are going untreated, because 22.5 million of those cases are in the sub-Saharan African region, excuse me, which, provides very little treatment. Delving right in, we're going to go ahead and start with America. I know I didn't, get to sex trafficking in America in my one video, which it does happen here. So I definitely wanted to incorporate, HIV and AIDS, America style. It's estimated that 688,000 Americans in 2008 had AIDS, or HIV that would eventually turn into AIDS, most likely. So 42,959 new diagnoses have happened every year upon that. So as we see, it's definitely kind of turning into a pandemic. It's definitely to know that almost 50,000, well, I guess you could round down or up, well, we'll go with 43,000. To know that basically 43,000 new people are being infected with the HIV strand every year is huge. It's definitely really getting its way around in America, and the first case was in the 80s, and to be this far by 2011 is crazy. We do have treatment here. Treatment is readily available, which is amazing, but at a certain point it doesn't stop the effects that AIDS has on the body. It's a very immune, aggressive disease. So after a while, the meds are not going to subside that, and that is very sad. And you have to think the medication is expensive, and although we do have, governments that help, fund health care, if really needed, there are the people who fall right below that can't qualify for that, and then therefore aren't getting their treatment they need. So it's a huge epidemic here, actually, so we definitely, need to be careful about that. In Latin America, 1.4 million people are estimated to be infected. You have to, in Latin America, it's one of the countries where the medicine is not easily available to their citizens. A fourth of the people who are infected with the HIV strand, or a fourth of the people, who are infected with the HIV strand that then grows into AIDS, will die within the first year of contracting that disease. That's huge. You don't think, it could wipe out that much of a population in 12 months. You also have to remember, in places like Bolivia and Colombia, only 17% of their population, they have one of the greatest AIDS populations in Latin America, but only 17% of their citizens who have AIDS are receiving treatment. So that's a very small percentile. 14,000 annually in Colombia contracted, so that's a very big deal, because it's not a huge country. So then in sub-Saharan Africa and South Africa, this is definitely where most people know AIDS is very aggressive. It's what we see mostly on the TV, and what we see a lot in some commercials and things like that. 22.5 million people have AIDS, HIV or AIDS there. And you have to remember that of those 22.5 million, which is a huge amount, that's a population, 2.3 million of those are going to be children. In Africa, you also have to remember the main cause, one of the main causes for the contraction of AIDS and the continual spreading is that rape is so readily accepted there that it's not prosecuted, and it's something that does happen very, easily, and people are very accepting. So you kind of have to take that into account. 90% of children orphaned by AIDS are in Africa, so that's huge. There are, orphanages just dedicated to AIDS victims' children who have been left because they died from the disease. And then you have to remember most of these children were born with the HIV strand because their parent had passed it to them. So they're dying at young ages and leaving infected children and maybe infected children to take care of their younger siblings. And it's just a pandemic that is absolutely crazy that you can't wrap your mind around. And the drugs are not available there. And the only time, there are some, more developed places in Africa, but you have to remember that most of these cases you're going to find in the tribal communities. And so it's not like, oh, let's walk 2 streets away to the healthcare center. It's not like that. It's a very tribal community. So the only way they're getting any treatment is if another country or another group is coming in to provide that treatment. The money is not available, the drugs are not available, and the location to receive those drugs are not available. Just to break it down, a few places in Africa with very high AIDS statistics. In Cameroon, 610,000 people. Kenya, 1,500,000. Nigeria, 3,300,000. South Africa, 5,600,000. That, and then you have to remember worldwide it's 33 million. So you're taking a whole region of Africa that has almost the whole population of AIDS in it, but then you're breaking it down even further, and there's still a majority of the AIDS cases in a very small region. So that's almost crazy to wrap your head around. So basically in Africa, 14,800,000 children are going to be orphaned because their parents have died from AIDS. AIDS is bad everywhere, but it has really hit there, and it's really hard to kind of subside and solve. Not that it can be totally solved, but because, protection isn't used in tribal communities, and it's not available there, and the meds are not available, as I mentioned earlier. Moving right along in India, you have to remember that most cases are, the main reason they're transferred is because of injecting, and then injecting drugs, obviously, and sex working. They are, transmitted through general sexual intercourse, but the main causes is definitely, drugs and the sex trafficking industry, which we had talked about earlier. Drug use in India is huge. They have so many problems with drugs, whether it be more simplistic drugs like huffing or hash, or it be, a more complex drug that they're injecting. People on the streets are, you read accounts, and they are constantly strung out in India, and people fall subject to losing their homes and their lives because they are pulled into the drug industry there. So that is going to be your main reason for the contraction of AIDS there. You have to remember that 28% of the total population in India is going to have AIDS. That is, a big number. And most of the people there are not going to be able to afford the treatment. The treatment is more readily available, but India is a very poor country. So the idea that you're going to have the money to provide yourself with the drugs is bleak, and it's not quite government funded. So that's very hard. You also have to remember in India, it's hard to get a good read on what's really going on in the HIV and AIDS community, because deaths attributed to AIDS are unreported. They go disguised. This is because it's looked as like you're discriminated against if you die because of AIDS. You're looked at as a dirty person and unclean. You're not pure, and there's kind of a stigma that goes along with dying because of the AIDS strand in India. So it's really hard to actually get an actual number of the people who are dying because they're not being treated. So that's definitely hard. They normally attribute deaths because of AIDS to things like tuberculosis and things like that, because the families don't want people to know. The people who are infected don't want people to know because, once again, they're a very religious society, and they don't want to be looked upon as dirty. In Southeast Asia, they have really, they are very, they had a spurt there, and they do have a good amount of AIDS, but they have been taking a lot of steps there to help their people. It's an example of a of smaller countries who aren't as prominent as the United States, really taking steps to help their people, and that is awesome. In places like Thailand, they're reducing AIDS via laws against brothels and things like that. They've shut down a lot of brothels there, which has helped, and also they've set up a lot of different healthcare facilities where people can get the drugs they need. In Burma, though, then you go, a little bit further to places like Burma, where only 18% are receiving medical treatment. I know a church group who went into Burma with a lot of doctor's supplies to help the people there, and the Burma government almost did not let them bring the drugs in, and did not, let the people pass. It's a very strict government. Drugs are very prohibited coming in or out of Burma, so that's very hard for them to receive the drugs they need to be treated, and that's why, or afford them, so that's why such a small population is getting the treatment they need. And that's of the 240,000 people that are infected there, so that's very crazy. Oh, sorry. Whew. In Cambodia, also, that's another great example. The government has really, taken a stance. 94% are receiving treatment. So, even if they don't have the money, Cambodia has really, tried to take the initiative to help their people with HIV and AIDS. You do have to remember, though, in Cambodia, a huge problem is still going to be the sex working industry. The laws against that are very lax, or there are none implemented at all. So that is obviously a continual problem there. In Europe, 2.2 million people are infected with HIV and AIDS. A lot of places are very small, or very much resemble kind of a United States-like glance. But in places like Ukraine and Uzbekistan, you're going to get kind of a large amount of people infected in a concentrated area. So that's definitely something that's a little different. You also have to remember, it's a very small amount that are being, once again, infected because of sexual intercourse with a significant other, or whatever you want to call it. Half of them are being, about half are being infected because of sex working, and the other half are being infected because of drug use. Drugs are, a lot more acceptable in the European nations than they would be in the United States. So getting their hands on the drugs are a little easier, and then the unclean nature, passing them friend to friend, obviously is going to be a big cause of the carry-on of the HIV and AIDS strand. So basically that's just kind of, there's obviously a lot more. You can delve in a lot deeper into the subject in each specific place. There's a lot of elements to it. That's just a little bit. The fact this is a pandemic that is so difficult, that cannot be stopped, really, because it can be helped, but it cannot be stopped. We don't have the medicine to cure it, and most places don't even have the money to help treat people. And even if you receive the treatment, eventually, your body is going to wear down, the immune system is going to wear down. It's very sad. I saw a dance teacher, and he had HIV, and it, obviously progressed, and I saw him a few months back, and it had been a while, and then, just seeing him from where he used to, be in the ballet room to where he was crippled over was just, it's unbearably sad. So definitely, if you want to learn more about HIV or AIDS, there are plenty of sources. I'll list some below. And also there is a foundation. It was really big about a year back, the Red. I know they had all the Gap shirts. I had the one that was like bow, and then in the little parentheses, red, like board. So the Red, they're going to be a great foundation. So I'll put those links in the box below. And we will definitely be back on track with a weekly video. So thanks for watching, and I hope to see y'all soon. Alright, go in peace. Bye.